Welcome to the lecture on the wage inequality, income inequality, and poverty. Um, this is actually last lecture in which we will cover at least for the course taught in the fall 2020. Last lecture that will be covered. That will be cover the topic, basically specific topic. There will be another lecture. I will just review the labor economy. Labor market data and data related to labor force. Well, this is kind of also a topic where we are actually going a little bit beyond the main, the core part of the course where we have just looked to the market relations, and instead we are still looking to the society at a large level compared with the previous sections where we have looked to specific what is happening in a specific company, basically. But again, when we are dealing with inequality, we have some specific language, specific measurement techniques which make us understand the wage inequality and income inequality and poverty, although we will still have maintain some connections with the main model when we are discussing on potential explanation of the inequality. Let's start. Well, this video is basically on the inequality in the United States, wealth inequality. There's also another video that is produced by the same guy for the inequality level, in the wealth inequality level in the whole world. And if you're interested, I can send you the video. But this video is interesting enough. It is just showing a data and with a somehow dramatic music and explanation. Although it didn't tell on potential comments and potential reasons that are explaining this inequality. Just watch it and see, how the data can be presented, and you might also think about what this data means and what are the causes of this inequality, and basically to what extent this inequality means United States is a unhealthy or healthy society, or has a unhealthy or healthy economic system. Well, for the most part of the world, the inequality could be easily tied to the classes, and classes were more visible, usually defined by certain privileges and certain functions in society. The most obvious one is the Indian caste system, but even in Europe and in Ottoman Empire, and for example, ancient Babylonia, who belongs to which class was pretty much defined, basically. Actually, even this cake type of representation existed. It's called wealth pyramid sometimes, but I believe there was actually a real cake made for the French king, showing different classes in the society. But when capitalism becomes the dominant system, income and wealth has become the main factors that are creating inequality and also dividing the classes, basically. So the specific social status privileges, those were not anymore there, not anymore the primary determinants. And if somehow wealth or income level of an individual change, the class within he remains might change. even though culturally and in the sense, in the way he senses it, he might still think he is belonging to one class. In reality, of course, he might have fallen to another class. I mean, um, we are not discussing class factor here, but just don't think it in this way. Class is defining the social function of an individual, and you might think on whether and to what extent income and wealth is determining this social function. Well, according to some people, that we are living in a classless society anyway. Is this true? Is Can it be defined based on income and wealth, the function of social function of an individual in society? That would be the critical question. But inequality is obviously a significant part of capitalism, and well, income and wealth are the primary elements that at least makes the living standards of individuals different from each other. And well, there are people with enormous wealth and some people with very little or almost no wealth, basically. You have no wealth if you don't own any property, including car, for example, car or house. Plus, you don't have any money in the bank. Or if the money you have in the bank is less than your debt to the bank or other uh, institutions. Um, so, uh, well, this inequality exists, but it is difficult to find a particular point and then divide the society and say this group belongs to the people with less than this level of wealth belong to this group. People with more than this level of wealth belong to this group. Uh, so, in, since this is not possible, since we cannot look we don't have a specific definition of certain groups in the capitalist system in terms of, I mean, the income and wealth level. Uh, Income and wealth level is measured using certain indices in the economic system. Although it's also popular to look actually just divide the group. For example, look at 10 percentile wage, 50 percentile wage, 90 percentile wage, where you look, I mean, the guy among the people who gets, for example, highest uh, the top 10% of people in terms of the income they got. You look among that group who is getting the lowest income, so the borderline at the lower borderline of that group, and you compare that income to the, for example, the median wage or the bottom, the top frontier of the bottom 10%, for example. Uh, but the most popular index is clearly Gini index, and we will present this index. And there is a special group of people in this framework, which is called which are people experiencing poverty, and we also need to define what poverty is in order to define these people and their size and what they experience. So let's move on. So income inequality is the most used type of inequality, which which actually measures income a person gets from multiple different sources. You can use income inequality to calculate income inequality, the weekly income or yearly income. Although yearly income is more accurate when you look to when you want to see the living standard differences of the people. And then, this is the previous one. And then you have wage inequality. Wage inequality is kind of an inequality where basically, I mean, a person does not necessarily have wage as the only income. So it might be incomplete information, but still it shows for the same amount of work. For example, if I work 10 hours and if someone else works 10 hours, what are the differences? In that sense, you can look weekly wage differences, hourly wage differences to the people to see how much same hourly work is rewarded differently throughout the society, throughout the labor force, of course. I mean, now the only relevant part of the society is the employed labor force. Third type of inequality is wealth inequality. It shows wealth differences of different groups. So wealth differences includes all the assets, valuable assets. Of course, in theory, this pen is also part of my wealth. However, in reality, its value is very low. Its value is even less than the money I have paid to buy this pen, since as a second-hand pen, it has even less value. Usually, car and any kind of valuable jewelry, if you have anything that is sellable for a reasonable price in the house, a house and car, as I said before, stocks or money in the bank or money in other, I don't know, places, in your safe, it's also included. All of these are included to the wealth. So wealth is the stock you have, and that stock you can use for the buying to buy things, even if your income is zero or low. So it is special importance because it gives you the current power level you have. Income is kind of the increase in that buying power, but wealth shows you the existing buying power you have. If you have high income but low wealth, that means if you got fired this today, maybe you might basically fall desperate, even though your income is high. You can see here the wealth distribution of the United States, and you can see actually top 1% is owning 34% of the wealth. This is top 1%. Top 4% is owning 27%, and top next 5% is owning the 11.2%. So top 10% is owning something around 60, 70, 72, 73% of the US wealth is owned by top 10%, and bottom 40% is owning 0.2% of wealth, basically. Note that these are the asset ownership. So people who are renting house and basically don't have a car, or even have a car which is second-hand car, which has very low value when you sell it, might own almost no wealth, basically, personally. And if they don't have also money in the bank, or their debt is higher than the money they have in the bank. So, for example, if you have your house in mortgage, I think you might be very well in the bottom 40%, because you are not the legal owner of the house yet before you pay the mortgage, which takes a lot of time. So, well, wealth inequality is usually more severe than income inequality. Why do you think it is so? Because you might say that if I got, well, think about the Turkey. If you got 5,000 Turkish lira, in that case, you might not survive to even to be. If you have a family of two or three people, you will just be able to look for the family, and you won't be able to save money easily. 5,000 lira is the income of the whole family. If you have 10,000, maybe you might save a little bit in a year, maybe 100, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a year is possible to save. When you have $20,000, it is much easier to save more money, $5,000, $6,000. If you are earning $100,000, now you can even save half of the income you have. And note that these savings accumulate cumulatively and also pass to the next generation. So basically, well, the difference increases cumulatively and makes the wealth inequality much larger than income inequality or the wage inequality.